Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's so good to see you all. I'm Selby, for those of y'all who don't know me. And today we're bringing you a sensational GMAT success story of Rishitha, who's a civil engineer from India working in sales and marketing in an auto sector. And Rishitha scored an impressive 695 on her latest GMAT attempt. Now, that's a 98.7th percentile score achieved with just 3 months of effective preparation. Congratulations, Rishita, once again for your score. Awesome
Thank you
job.
so much, Selvi. Thank you so much for hosting me today.
Of course. And guys, now what sets Rishita's story apart? She booked the exam right when she began preparing seriously for the GMAT, and this brought discipline in her prep. Now we'll dive deeper into Rishita's GMAT journey, her study habits, and preparation techniques in this talk. But before we dive in, remember, guys, to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to support us in bringing you more such inspiring stories like Rishita's. So, Rishita, thanks once again for doing this. Welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Now, Rishita, so before we dive into this discussion, let me put a complete timeline of your prep in front of the viewers. So, you decided to take the GMAT and begin your prep back in October 2022 with Jamboree's classes, and you attended them for a couple of months. Jamboree's, I guess, this Indian prep company, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Now, later, you discontinued your GMAT journey and restarted again in November 2023. And that's when you realized you really need to ace the GMAT. So you took a complete break from work. You booked the GMAT exam date on Feb 13th in
Yes.
November itself. And you've given around 3 months to yourself for preparation. So you already have prep materials from Jamboree. You also bought the official guides and the GMAT Club forum quiz, and you studied with all these resources. So your study hours were around like 6 hours for the first 2 months, if I'm not mistaken, and 8 to 10 hours for the last 30 days. But 20 days before your exam, you noticed a major flaw in approaching the critical reasoning questions, which is not letting you maintain a high accuracy on hard questions. So you promptly made course correction to fix this weakness. You took 4 mock tests, correct, during this period. And on Feb 13th, you took your actual GMAT test and scored a 695. So is this timeline correct?
Yeah, pretty much it's correct.
Awesome. All right. So let's first start with booking the exam in advance. Now, we had one more student interviewed recently, Tavishi, who also did the same. She booked the exam in advance to bring seriousness and discipline in her preparation. And viewers, just FYI, the link of Tavishi's debrief is added in the description. But Rishita, tell me how booking the exam in advance and giving yourself a deadline helps.
So, Selvi, the beauty of this GMAT exam is that you have the leverage to book your own exam date and time. So, unlike the other exams like CAT or ZAT or other tough exams wherein there is only fixed date per year, so here you have that leverage. But it becomes a double-edged sword when you become complacent with your preparation. So, you're like, let me do it next month, next year, after 2 years, something like that. So that's why I was like, okay, let me book the first the date first. So not like I have to score so and so much, but I wanted to book the date first so that I can give at least my first attempt. So that
Mhm.
was the idea, and this actually made me on toast. Like 3 months ahead, I've booked the date, and for the 3 months plan, I've prepared, and this made me be on toast with my preparation journey.
That's awesome. If it were me, I'd be like, no, I will book the exam date when I'm super ready, and that will never happen. So I think you did a good job of doing that. Awesome. Okay, so that's great. Now let's discuss your preparation methods. Let's start with Quant. Okay, so you're preparing with Jamboree's concepts, official questions, and the GMAT Club forum quiz. Tell me, what was your method of study and your daily and weekly study routine?
Okay, so as you mentioned before, so it was like a full-time preparation for me. So
Mhm.
I spent almost like 5 to 6 hours for the first 20 days, and for the last 1 month, sorry, first 2 months, and for the last 1 month, it's like 8 to 10 hours. So initially, being an engineering student, I wanted to start off with Quant so that I'll
Mm.
get that peace of mind. Okay, at least one section is finished. So I started with Quant, and I prepared like a plan of 20 to 25 days ahead, allocating like one day for few topics and 2 days for few topics. So unlike
Mhm.
others who kind of do parallelly different sections. I
Correct.
want to finish Quant completely, and that's why I started. So for each of the sections, each of the topics of Quant, I initially have finished my Zamburi material, whatever the questions were there. And after the Zamburi material questions are done, then I went on to OG, the PS and DS,
Mm,
both the questions. So then comes the foreign quiz, the main tool. So it has concreted the complete topic. So after finishing these three sections, it's like one topic is concreted, and then I went on to next topic, and like that I finished my Quant. So
mm.
yeah, this was pretty much like how I approach Quant.
Oh, that's nice. And how did you exactly handle, maybe the challenging topics, or were there any challenging topics or sections that you came across, which you sort of
Okay.
tackled?
Yeah, there are, I guess, three topics which I struggled a lot. So,
Mm,
number system and inequalities, and I guess Venn diagrams was the other one. So, these three were a thorn in my foot because I was not able to exactly understand what are the factors, devices, and all this stuff. So these three topics kind of were difficult for me. And for these three topics, I extensively dependent on the GMAT foreign quiz. So
mm,
I think I've exhausted the questions in these three topics of the foreign quiz. Like I've practiced a lot, especially because the approaches which are there in the section, the solution section, the approaches, different approaches. So wherein, especially even if the questions are correct, also I used to still see the approaches in the solution section because sometimes many of the experts provide such approaches which are logical more than arithmetic. So
mm,
which kind of makes you save the time. So that's
mhm.
why it was very important for me to use the foreign quiz. And yeah, this is how I approach these three topics. And I definitely recommend foreign quiz 700 plus questions for wherever you're struggling.
That's true. And so how long did it take for you to complete your quant section?
So it was like 22 to 25 odd days. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And like once you were done with that, you were completely ready for it. Like even though you went for verbal, which we're going to talk about next, you didn't forget your concepts or whatever you learned, correct?
No, not like that. I don't have a very good memory, so I that's why during all this 25 days, I made a meticulous note, writing down the note process. So there were two kinds of notes. One is for formula and all. I used to maintain a notes for the
Mm-hmm.
revision, and the second thing is I followed a marked approach system. So wherein, let's say I am using the Zamburi material, and let's say 50 odd questions are there in there. And if I'm finding five questions where I struggled with the approach, I used to note them down with Excel, the question numbers, page numbers, as such.
Mm-hmm.
And those questions itself, only those I have approached during the revision phase, so that I'll have that brush up of concepts. Otherwise, it would be without that notes, it would have been very difficult for me to revise the topics.
Nice, nice, awesome. Oh, and just by the way, for our viewers, I can see, that there are going to be questions coming in. We'll definitely take them up maybe in the end. But guys, like the video. Don't just sit there and watch us. Like and subscribe. Okay, awesome. So now let's go to verbal, and talk about like the critical reasoning section, which you were struggling with. Now, you started with Jamboree's CR questions and you achieved a good accuracy, which made you a bit overconfident. Interesting. But when you started attempting harder questions on the form quiz, you struggled solving them. Roughly 20 days before the exam, you acknowledged that there was a major flaw in your conceptual understanding of CR passages and you took steps to fix it. Tell us more about this.
Okay, so as I mentioned, after finishing like Quant in 20 to 25 days, there was actually a period of roller coaster in between. So I
Mm,
was still not sure that do I have to give classic because DI section is something which was a mystery at that point of time. And I was like, okay, although I booked the exam, let me book another exam in this January end or something and let me give the classic. So that's how I
mhm.
started preparing for sentence correction actually. So
Oh,
sentence correction I've actually, yeah, so prepared for like 7 days or so, and I like full dedication on sentence correction for like 7 days. So but I
mm,
realized I am messing it up and I was like, okay, it's not working, let me go back to focus. So that's how I
mhm,
started with CR section for the focus part of the verbal part of the focus. So coming to the CR section, initially, as you mentioned, like I started working on the Zamburi questions and they were pretty much good. So I used to
mm,
read the short passages like a story and they sounded good, and I went to the options and selected. It kind of worked because I feel that Zamburi questions, the practice questions which are there, kind of 650 to 700 level of questions, not a level of 700 above. So it worked over there, and I was like, okay, CR is going really great. So then only RC is left, which I have to practice a bit. So that kind of
mm.
boosted me. With Quant, I'm already an engineering student now. CR is also going good. I was like, okay, this is perfect.
Really
So, but
good.
Yeah. So, but slowly when I started using foreign quiz 700 plus questions, I
Mhm.
realized the questions laughed at me indirectly. So they were, I mean, I could not. There was a lot of inconsistency, I would say. Sometimes I used to score 70% accuracy in foreign quiz, and sometimes it used to be like 50%, 30%, 20%. So there was a lot of inconsistency in this. So then on one fine day, like not one fine day, just 20 days before the exam, after I've given my first mark, I was like, okay, listen, so you're not good at CR, accept it, don't be a fool, go and get your basics right. So that's how I started researching about CR part of the section, and I came across EGMAT's free videos. So
Mm.
yeah, so EGMAT prepared very good videos for the people who wants to get the basics done. So that's how I went on to CR section of EGMAT, and they had very beautiful videos on assumptions. What is an assumption? How do you have to differentiate them, and everything. So that videos helped me a lot. It's like starting again from zero for the CR. So before 20 days, and but that videos were really helpful, and it kind of the approach which has changed majorly before and afterwards. As I mentioned before, I used to read like a short story previously and directly get on to questions. But
Mhm.
after this EGMAT videos, I started dissecting the paragraphs well. So what are the passages are there? I kind of dissected, okay, these are the assumptions, this is the premise, and this is the conclusion. So automatically I started framing that in my mind well, and then went on to questions. So it's very important to have this dissection ready in your brain. So that's what helped me in the second phase of my CR.
Not only that, it's super important to have your basics, in check. I think because you went like the opposite direction completely, and that
True,
messed
true.
everything up. But I mean, it's crazy that it took you 20 days to sort of, well, not completely master, but make sure you at least get a really good score, like in your verbal section, which is amazing. So kudos to that. But
Thank
this
you so
was
much.
the CR section. Let's also talk about the reading comprehension. How did you study for the RC section of the verbal part?
Okay, so RCS, I'm not kind of a avid reader, but I'm a person like who reads like 2 pages per day or such. So RC is when I first have seen the RC section of the GMAT, so the passages were really complicated. So there was a lot of different topics, and they seemed really complicated. So I got a couple of suggestions from the few people that okay, try to read articles from like Economist or some of the business papers so that you'll get grasp over it. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried that for like 3 or 4 days, but it was not working for me. I could not understand, okay, I'm reading it now. What should I do? Am I understanding it correct or not? How do I exactly understand it? So I
Yeah.
was not understanding, and I was like, okay, this is not working. Let me practice questions itself directly, but I'll do a lot of questions. So that's how I started with questions from GMAT foreign quiz directly. And especially, I've seen one of the videos of GMAT Club earlier, wherein they mentioned about LSAT questions are really good. So that's why I sticked with LSAT questions in the foreign quiz section. So
Mm-hmm.
wherein there are different difficulty levels, and you can put only filter of LSAT. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I started practicing LSAT RCs. They were really difficult. They were comparatively really difficult when we compare with the verbal of GMAT. So, but it's good, right? You practice the harder questions before, and
Yeah.
exam seems better. So LSAT questions, that's how I started preparing for, and I started reading, and it helped my foundation. And that's the first part. And not only this, but the CR approach, which I mentioned before, wherein I started dissecting things and all, it
Mm-hmm.
also strengthened my RCs also, because now I'm able to understand the passages better, right? So now with that, the RCs also I'm able to comprehend better. So okay, this is what the author is saying. This is what the conclusion is. Even in RCs, I started seeing it that way. Okay, this is the conclusion of first paragraph and all. So that also concreted my RCs approach. So overall CR approach, whatever I've got, it helped in my RCs also.
So you don't have an issue maybe with RC the way you had with CR, right? Like what was the timeline exactly for RC? So you said CR took you 20 days. Was RC similar to that, or you prepared way beforehand?
No, RCR did not exactly take me 20 days. I started like 20 days before. So, but it
Mm,
was almost like 10 days or so I focused on CR and verbal both. So, verbal
nice.
both together, I would say they have taken almost like 20 days overall to finish both the sections.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. Okay, great. Now that was verbal. Let's discuss now the third section, the data insights and the mysterious role of the 200 DI question bank purchased from GMAT that lifted your DI score within the last 3 days of the exam? Tell us more about it.
It's actually the opposite. So I kind of messed up my DI section in the exam. So I'm a failure in DI section, so I can help give the lessons of failure over here. So yeah,
Go
so
for
my
it.
DI section, yeah, so my DI section kind of really bad. Although I scored a 695, so my DI is just 77. So
Mm,
the main mistake I've done over here is not using the official GMAT questions. So
mm,
I started off. I mean, since it was very start stages of GMAT focus, so there was no concrete sources. Also, the resources were also not proper online for DI questions. So I started randomly practicing Zamburi questions sometimes on the foreign quiz, and it was not very clear. So, but
mhm,
the Zamburi questions, whatever I practiced, I kind of scored very good accuracy over there. So, in the very first test I've taken, out of like 60 odd questions of DI got 59 correct. So,
mm,
but again, it's the same thing. The level of toughness of the questions was really, really less compared to the actual exam. So
mhm,
that's how I went on with DI and mock test and everything. And almost like 3 to 4 days before the actual exam, one of my friends recommended seeing the questions of this 200 GMAT official GMAT questions.
mhm,
So I have immediately bought that question bank and gone through a few of the questions, and then I understood that okay, I'm going to mess up DI in the exam. So
mhm,
now if I have to do the exam well, I have to rock only in verbal and quant. So but okay, give your best in DI was my approach like 3 days before the exam. So
mhm.
yeah, so that's how DI guys, please use the 200 questions bank of 200 100. There are I guess 300 questions easily in the MBA.com, the official GMAT website. So please use
Correct.
them well.
I mean, official resources are always the best. If you can use any other resources, maybe just for practice, do use them. But in the end, guys, use official like sources. They're I think the closest to what you get to see in the exam. All right, that's I guess the golden rule of GMAT prep. All right,
True.
awesome. Now we've talked about all the three sections. Let's now talk a little bit about the actual exam day. And of course, the day before the exam. How was it like, reaching the test center, the whole administrative process, starting the exam? You can also discuss a little bit about the section order and your feelings in each section, the breaks, reaction after seeing your score, and so much more. Let me know all about it.
Sure, perfect. So when I started the preparation, so once I got to know, okay, these are the sections, so I kind of kept a target for myself, like I have to get 675 was my target. So
Mm-hmm.
675, even I have written in my diary also, target
Oh,
675, something as such. Yeah, so
happy.
that's why I targeted 675, and almost like the mid of the preparation, I was like, okay, this is tough. Let me drop down the standards. And I was like, okay, 665 is enough. So that's how I
Oh.
went on to 665 in between the exam. So just like 15 days before the actual exam, and after seeing the DI thing also, I was like, okay, 655 is also fine for the first attempt. It's okay. You have a chance of other attempts, so relaxed. Just give it like a
Mhm,
mock test. So that was my approach. In fact, I have given only 4 mock tests before the exam, and only two of them are the official mock tests. So we have
mhm.
6 mock tests, official mock tests, right? So I've used only 2 of them with the idea that rest of the 4 I would use for second and third attempts. So that's how I saved the mock test also. That's how I mentally was prepared that okay, relax. This the first attempt is just another mock test. Then you have to
Mhm.
go for the second attempt and third attempt. Something as such was my plan. So yeah, that's what my approach was before the exam also, and that's why one day before also I was kind of relaxed itself, but I was just nervous that I should get good sleep. So if I don't
Mm.
get good sleep, it's kind of a problem for me. So but with that nervousness, actually before night I could not sleep, so I slept like around 4 or 4:30 a.m. So
Oh,
just with the nervousness that I was not able to sleep, I did not sleep. So that became too complicated. So yeah, so that's how. But next day morning again, I got freshened up and I was like, okay, relax because it's like a mock test. That was the idea. So I went to the center and I have given offline test, and administration was pretty. The administration was pretty smooth. Also, the check-in process, everything. And after that, I went on to give the actual exam like 5 minutes before. I kind of relaxed in the seat and
Mhm,
I started off with quant section. So quant section majorly because it's again my comfort area. So that was the idea. I started off with quant, and the idea was that I'll give quant first, verbal
mhm,
next, and the last DI. So so I started off with Quant. I kind of halfway through the exam, I became nervous because I was facing all the easy questions. So
Mm,
because it's an adaptive test, you kind of have to get tough questions as you
right.
progress, right? So it's like I'm expecting a kind of a boxing match, but it was just a pillow fight. I was like, why? Why am I not getting tough questions? So
Maybe they
that
were
kind
all
of made me
easier.
nervous.
Even the hard questions must have been easy for you. Maybe you were
Not
that.
at all. Not at all. So they were actually easy. The
Oh,
quant of
okay.
actual exam compared to the ones which I practiced in foreign quiz and every other place, they were actually easier. So but yeah, so I kind of finished it like 6 to 7 minutes early,
Mm-hmm.
the quant section. So I had like time for 6 to 7 minutes time to revisit the questions and see if anything is wrong as such. So
Mm-hmm.
in the last 6 minutes, I revisited like 7 to 8 questions, and luckily I found out one silly error which I've done, and I've corrected it. So
Nice.
so that's how I've ended the quant section and scored. I mean, I got all correct on quant, so that kind of helped me boost the
Nice.
score.
Nice.
Yeah, so after quant is done, I did not take any break. I directly jumped into verbal section.
Mm-hmm.
So verbal. The problem with verbal is if you're nervous or tensed, you kind of reread the statements, whether it is in CR or passages, wherever it is. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
reread the sentences. So, but since I was relaxed, I did not have that problem, which I feel is the biggest advantage for my actual exam. Although not a very verbal is not still my strong area, but I scored 87 on verbal because I was relaxed. This was the major part, I would say. So
Mm-hmm.
I was relaxed and I was going through the questions. And at the end, like 5 to 6 questions, I felt them to be really tough. Especially the
Mm-hmm.
last passage which I faced. It was a very short passage. It was like 7 to 8 lines, short passage, but it was really tough to comprehend. Also, the questions were also too complicated.
Oh God.
So I rushed through I kind of rushed through the last three questions and finished them like in there were a couple of CR questions at the end, which I finished in just like 1 minute because I had to rush through the passage. So
Mm,
finally, I was left with 1 minute in verbal, which I again used to revisit. I in 1 minute you can hardly revisit a single question, right? So
true.
I selected one question randomly because my intuition said go to this question. I changed the answer for that, and it helped me again. So I changed it from incorrect to correct. So
Nice.
yeah, that's
Your gut feeling helped.
correct, correct. So that's how I
Nice.
finished verbal. But the idea was that I did not do good in verbal. During the exam, I felt
Mm,
like, okay, verbal is messed up, is what I felt. So
yeah.
that's why after verbal, I have taken a break. I kind of went to the washroom. There was a mirror over there. I spoke to myself, okay, verbal is gone, leave it. Quant is good. Do DI good. You're good to go. That was the idea. I
What
spoke to
that pep
myself.
talk look like?
Yeah, exactly. A bathroom pep talk. Yeah.
Nice. And then
Yeah.
how
So
was the insights for you?
So that's how I went to DI. I kind of was okay. I relaxed and confident. I went for the DI section. So one mistake again I've done over here is the booklet, whatever they do for the rough work, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of almost finished, but I did not try to swap it or take the new one in the break period. So I forgot. And in between the DI section, I realized that it's almost done. I kind of wasted 2 minutes in getting speaking to them and getting additional or rough work paper, I would say. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, please, whatever the papers are there, please see in the breaks itself. Try to close all these things in the
Yeah.
breaks itself. Yeah,
Nice.
so that is one part where DI I kind of wasted like 2 minutes, but yeah, I started DI pretty good. So first 5 questions I was on track. I was seeing the time also, so it was
Mm-hmm.
going on track. But after like 5 or 6 questions, I kind of the questions were really interesting, so I kind of
Mm-hmm.
lost track of the time. So I was like, okay, this is going to come now. Answer is going to come now. So that's why I wasted like 4 minutes on like 3 or 4 questions in between, and during the last 5 or 6 questions, I realized that I was lacking behind. So, but already the damage was done. So,
Mm,
kind of last 3 questions, I guessed. Last 3 questions, I just guessed and finished the exam.
makes
So,
sense.
yeah, that's
And
how
how
I
was
finished
it like
the
seeing the
exam.
score in the end? Were you
It
shocked?
was it was really it was really exhilarating. I mean, I did not care about sectional scores. I just saw that 695. I was like, okay, end of it. Let me close this. Yeah, I kind of closed it. And I even forgot to take they give a score printout kind of thing after the exam, right? So
Mm,
even forgot that in excitement to take that. So I just ran downstairs, hugged my friend. Okay, this is exam is done. I thought of 675, I got 695 and all. So I was super happy with the overall
What
experience.
was the number you wrote on your notebook? Your target score? It was
675.
six. So who knows? If you would have written maybe 695, you would have scored more than 700, right? You gotta aim high.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually very correct point. So I'm a person naturally also at work also. I'm a person who always under promises and kind of over delivers. So I'm a very kind of underconfident person. So where I that also adds an advantage to me that the more I'm underconfident, I put a lot of efforts. So
Mm-hmm.
to get to that point. So it's like I mean it
So
happened. I'm not sure.
maybe there's a second attempt incoming, and maybe this one would be you should like under deliver in the 700s, like high 700s, and over deliver with with like a really 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 high score. So that would have
Hopefully.
been awesome. Hopefully, let's see. All right. So this was your whole process in the exam day. Now, in terms of, I mean, just as advice, like what advice would you give, to other GMAT aspirants who are struggling to maintain, the discipline and the consistency in their prep?
Okay, so I know a lot of people who are getting this done along with work also, but I kind of taken a leverage of taking break from work. But whatever it is, with work or without work, try to block the date ASAP, guys. So as I said
Mhm.
before, we tend to become complacent. Okay, I'm not perfect today. Let me do it tomorrow and all. But it's okay. Just book the date. Try to do your best in that period. If it's working, fine. If it's not working, also that's fine. You have other attempts to give. So I know
Mhm.
it's not easy said to be relaxed, but yeah, try to be relaxed. That's what
No,
I would say as the first thing. Yeah.
yeah, like the thing that you did is very commendable, just to like block the day. There's so many. I remember when I used to prepare, I had so many friends who would struggle just doing what you did, blocking the day, because it was always to the point of, I don't think I'm ready enough. I might need 6 months, or I might need seven. I might even need a year to master this exam. But no matter how much time you have, it's never enough. But what you did is great. Awesome job. I think that's the best thing that you did, was first book the date.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. And so looking back, you've said everything, your whole like GMAT journey. But is there anything that you would do differently in your preparation? Let's say if you were again to do it in the future.
Um, I mean, I'm not sure for me specifically, but if I have to just go into the past, not for the second attempt, but if I have to just go into the past and redo, I would definitely make my DI approach proper. So I would go through the official guides first before doing all the questions around. So
True.
that's what I would change. Fix on official questions of DI. They are really helpful.
True. No, makes sense. And now that there are, I mean, now that there must be so many DI resources out there, because back when you were taking it, GMAT Focus was like newly introduced. The classic was starting to like be completely gone. So I can understand the struggle you are facing, finding the right resources for yourself. Okay, makes sense. Now let's just quickly go to the audience questions. I can see that there are some right here, so let me quickly check. Okay, let's see. Okay, someone here asked, amongst Jamboree, eGMAT, and TTP, which one would you suggest for GMAT Focus Prep? My target is a 635 to 655 on the Focus version.
Hopefully you also achieve greater than what you target for. Like I did. Yeah, that's the first point. And I'm not sure to exactly talk about TTP, but still I would like to mention about Marty, the founder, I believe, of TTP. So he's a really active member of GMAC Forum Club, and he has been really helpful. So I just know about him, not the TTP course as such. But
Mhm.
EGMAT and Zamburi, EGMAT is really good for the people who wants to go from basics. So Zamburi's approach was like they started directly with questions in verbal also. So that
Mhm.
may not be comfortable with a lot of people like me who don't have a very strong verbal foundation.
Mhm.
So yeah, but the questions compilation and everything were really good in Zamburi. But for the basics were not really concrete. So if you really want from basics, I would suggest EGMAT.
Makes sense. Oh, and also like Marty's like I don't think anymore with TTV, but of course you must have maybe seen a lot of his resources on YouTube as well. Marty now has his own thing. So but
Okay.
if anyone wants to reach out to him, they definitely can. Just search him up and you'll get the
Yeah, I'm
link.
so sorry. I thought he's still with TTP. Yeah.
No, it's completely fine. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Someone here asked, could you share what were your first and final mock scores after prep, and did you see major change while giving mocks?
I give 4 marks. So basically, apart from 4 marks, I kind of practice a lot of sectional tests of Zamburi. So they're not
Mm-hmm.
like exact mock tests, but sections wise tests were there. I practice a lot among those. So, but the
Mm-hmm.
4 mock tests I've given was the first mock test I started off with the official mock test. So wherein
Mm-hmm.
I scored 725 in the first mock test. So
Mm,
but I
nice.
was prepared for the fact that there are kind of repetitive questions which I've done practiced in foreign quiz or somewhere else. There were kind of repetitive questions, and I was like, okay, probably it helped me in getting this kind of score. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I heard advice that whatever you're getting in mock test, be prepared for like 40 or 50 points lesser in the actual exam because you become nervous. There are a lot of other things. So
Yeah.
yeah, 725 I've got in the first mock test, and the second mock, the final mock I have given was of again of sorry, the final mock I've given was interesting. It was of EGMAT. So
Mm-hmm.
EGMAT free mock test was there. I've given that and I scored a 595 on that. It was
Oh God.
just 5 days before the actual test, and I scored
Mhm.
595 on that in the final mock test. Yeah, I mean, the test was really tough. The EGMAT's mock test was actually way higher than the level of questions. I mean, way
Mhm.
higher than the ones which are there in the actual exam. So
Mhm.
you can imagine scoring 625 in the official mock test and
Oh,
scoring 595 in EGMAT. That was 5 days before exam. So
yeah.
yeah, my mock test kind of reduced by the end of the final mock test, but the EGMAT test is really tough, I would say.
Mhm.
My actual score and my mock test scores are very similar of the official test itself. So official
Mm.
test I scored 725 on one, and the second free official test I scored 695, and my actual
Mhm.
test score is 695. So they kind of are similar with the official mock test.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. And I think there's one more where someone asked like I don't know if you've used GMAT Ninja's resources. Okay, you have not.
No,
Then maybe I should.
yeah, I kind of seen few videos. I mean, when I mentioned about DI to understand what exactly DI is and all,
Yeah.
Charles' videos have gone through YouTube. So he kind of gave a good framework examples of all the questions. So that's what I've seen, and yeah, he helped me. He introduced DI to me, but nothing else apart from that. I've seen the GMAT Ninja.
Awesome. All right. Someone here wrote, so when you suggest to go through the GMAT Club forum questions at the beginning of the prep or towards the end, like 1 month before the final exam date.
Um, I would suggest whatever. I mean, for Quant, it's like topics, right? For verbal, it's not specifically kind of topics are not there, but Quants had like
Mm-hmm.
topic, right? So I would suggest go along with the preparation itself. So make that one topic concrete, whatever you're doing, because doing finishing them and again going to foreign quiz at the end, I'm not really sure if that works. But concrete the one topic which you're doing with foreign quiz also, so that that one topic is clear for you is what I would suggest. For
Mm-hmm.
verbal, start if you think if you're taking any other course, kind of coaching prep material, okay, do that first. And then once you get comfortable with concepts, like the basics foundations are clear, so then you can go with foreign quiz. But Quant, I would say do along with it.
Makes sense. All right. And before I go to the next few questions, guys, if you're applying for any of the top business schools out there, we are going to help. GMAT Club is going to help by conducting this free event where we're going to literally walk through the whole application process for free. And all you have to do for that is just register, go on our website. You will see a pop up somewhere with an MBA application walkthrough. Go ahead, register there, and hopefully it will help you with your MBA application process. Okay, so next question. Did you struggle with time management initially, especially data insights?
Yes, definitely. For both verbal and DI, I struggled with time management initially. For verbal, for one CR, initially I used to take like 4 to 5 minutes. So
Mm-hmm.
CR, you should not. invest that much of time. But yeah, initially it took that much time. So, but slowly, don't worry about the time initially. If you're in initial phases of your preparation, time management will definitely come up. But just with practice tests, so keep whenever you're practicing after your, I mean, kind of concepts, everything are clear, and you go into that practice stage of your preparation, try to put time limits slowly. Don't start directly with time limit. So let it go in a flow. Try to understand where you're taking time and all. For verbal, I kind of initially for each passage I took like 15 minutes. So for
Mm-hmm.
a single RC to be finished, it was way too
Mm-hmm.
high. But yeah, with reading and everything. So one thing is that the kind of once you practice lots of questions, you'll find a similarity in terms of the actual exam questions also. So they don't sound or seem alien to you. So it's that's why the time limit will automatically come into place. But you just have to keep practicing. For DI,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I struggled a lot. In fact, I struggled for the actual exam also. So that's why I did bad in DI. So yeah, be conscious. I would say be conscious of time. So don't invest. No question is worth 4 minutes like I did. So
Mm-hmm.
initially during the practice, definitely just get through it. Do a lot of questions and everything. And DI specifically has 4 or 5 type of questions, right? So once you get used to that format, time taken initially versus time taken at the end definitely reduces. Initially,
Mm.
just to get used to that format of DI question, it takes a lot of time, but that's okay. So once you come to the preparation end phase like that, you're familiar with types of question. Okay, this is two-part analysis. This is how
Mm-hmm.
MSR works and all. So then it becomes kind of easier. But don't do the mistake I've done. Don't spend 4 minutes, 5 minutes on any questions.
Mm. And I guess this might, what you just said might answer this question. Like, what exactly do you think went wrong with the DI in your exam? They said that they heard that it's highly correlated with CR and Quant where you aced. I also faced the same in my mock.
Okay, yeah. So DI, even I had the initial same feedback that it's once you are thorough with your quant and verbal, DI is just the same concepts or questions are used. So, but kind of different formats and all. So there is no
Mm-hmm.
separate syllabus for DI as such. So that is what even I heard, and it's in fact still I believe it's a reality. Once you have your quant and verbal basics straight, DI is not a very difficult game, is what I would say. But time management of DI is definitely a difficult game. So for me, as I mentioned earlier, also I messed up in time management. It's not about the concepts or questions part. So once I would suggest you to see the times of the questions you're going through, where you're struggling and all. Other than that, DI is actually it has strengthening questions, it has weakening questions, it has basic arithmetic questions. It's a lot similar to quantum verbal.
Makes sense. All right. I'll take up the last two questions here. Um, how many wrong answers can bring a quant score below 80, and what's the same for verbal and DI as well?
It's a very complicated question. I am not sure if anyone would be able to answer this. I've seen
Is this
people,
too
we
much
were
to
just discussing it a while ago that a person got one wrong and got like 80 score in Q. I mean, it's very difficult to predict. But I can tell my scenario. Quant, as I said, I've got all correct and it's 90. Verbal,
Mm,
I've got like 6 questions wrong, but still I got 87. So six is a in the mock test when I was getting six wrong, I was getting around like 83, 84 kind of thing. But in actual exam with six wrong, I got 87. So it's like
mm,
99th percentile. So you cannot predict. It's completely depends on toughness of the questions. For DI with such a less score of 77, I mean I got 9 questions wrong in the actual exam. So it's very high.
mm.
So I mean it's not predictable. It a lot depends. Don't try to figure it out like how many questions. I try to do the same. I also used to ask that how many questions you have to get wrong and all before exam, but it's not working. So no one will be able to answer that. So don't stress
Correct.
about that much.
I mean, if you're gonna think so much about this, like in the end, how do you know what answers are wrong and what answers are right? Just make sure you prepare yourself very well beforehand and try to ace this test. Okay. In regards to like other resources, like you already mentioned that you use the major three Jamboree, the forum quiz, and wait, what was the third one? Jamboree, forum
EGMAT.
quiz, and, oh, and EGMAT, correct. But someone here asked if you know about the Manhattan preps or like the GMAT book set, if you've ever used it for your prep, and is there any other resources that maybe you came across you kind of wanted to try but you maybe did not have the time or didn't want to? Just let us know.
So Manhattan, I have gone through, but I went. I went through the materials of sentence correction of that. So,
Oh,
but
of
I'm
course.
not really sentence correction. It has a very exhaustive basics kind of thing. I would say for nouns, pronouns, everything was very detailed in that for sentence correction. Still, I was not able to do good, but I went through that. But I found it to be really exhaustive and really good. If someone has a
Mhm,
lot of time and want through, I mean, if you have time or not, you have to get your basics right if your verbal is not correct. But apart from sentence corrections, I have no clue about Manhattan. And as you're asking, Selby, so the other kind of resources which I wanted to go through and I could not. So TDP is one thing which I really wanted to go through. I would consider it if I'm going for a second attempt. So
mhm.
that material is something which I've thought of. But yeah, these are the things I've tried. Manhattan only sentence correction. It was really exhaustive.
Makes sense. All right. And guys, sorry, Rishita to answer the next two questions, the final two questions again, please like this video. Don't just sit there and watch our pretty faces without liking this video and subscribing. It makes me feel really bad, you know. Both of us apparently are sick, but we're still doing this for you guys so that you guys get really helpful insights from this video. Sorry, Rishit, I did not know if I should mention that we're both sick, but
No
we are.
worries, no worries. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Last two questions. So here, someone asked, in the prep front, did you do the practice on verbal NDI with unlimited time, and what was your accuracy target before going to time practice?
Yeah, I initially, I mean, not exactly without time. I've kept time, but I did not worry that, okay, I have to finish in like 2 minutes or such. I kind of observed like how many minutes I was taking or not. So
Mm-hmm,
I did not, yeah, that's what I did not freak much about, okay, I have to finish in 2 minutes or some, but it was like unlimited kind of time in my mindset. I went with
mm-hmm,
that. So the accuracy I was getting around with unlimited time it was good. So 70%, 80% for tough questions, like that I was getting good. But once
mm-hmm,
I started putting on the time, accuracy dropped a bit. So you have to rush through the questions, right? So it increased. Then after putting the timer target, so then it reduced, and slowly I got used to the timer again, and it increased. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, that was my approach.
Makes sense. All right. And someone here said also, is it a myth that you should not get any answers wrong on the first 10 questions? Thank you for your response. What do you
Not
think?
sure. Even I've heard of the same thing for the classic question. I'm not sure about focus. I've heard this session a lot. The first 10 questions are really important, so be
Mm,
invested in the first 10 questions as such. But I'm not really sure. For both the section, but for both verbal and DI, got incorrect questions in the first 10 questions. So no, I cannot
and
comment on that. I'm so sorry.
makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Okay, and I'll just take this last one. Are the questions repetitive from the official guide? Any of them for any three sections?
Official guide, I would say no, they were not repetitive. But foreign quiz, I found a very similar questions in verbal. Quant and
Mm,
DI, I don't think I found same questions. But verbal, the interesting part was one of the questions, the CR questions. Not even one, I guess two or three of the questions. So very similar to the ones which I've done on the foreign quiz. It was just like some nouns had changed and a little bit of tweaks. I was like, okay, I've done this question before. I could feel that. So yeah, there were a couple of questions like that from the foreign quiz which I found similar in the verbal.
mhm.
TI and Quant, no.
Makes sense. All right. Well, that basically covers all of the questions. Thanks to our viewers, of course, for asking us these amazing questions to a very sick Rishita, sick Rishita who managed to not look sick at all. It's me who's literally sounding so sick right now. But guys, please do like this video. Do subscribe to our channel. We're definitely gonna do more of these in the future. And Rishita, is there a way, if anyone else has more questions, is there a way for people to reach out to you? I mean, I'm sure that they can message you through the GMAT Club forum, but let us know if there's any other way.
Yes, yes. So GMAT Club, I'm still active on that. So a lot of people still reach out, and I would be more than happy. I was in same stage that I was seeking help from different people, and I would be more than happy to pay it forward. So please do text me on GMAT Club. I would be more than happy to help you guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much. It was lovely having you here. And if you ever plan to take a second attempt, do let us know, and maybe we'll
Sure.
do another debrief.
Yeah, hopefully.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Selvi. Thanks for your time.